Picture this. You're standing out on the ancient steppes. It's just this endless sea of yellow grass waving in the wind as far as the eye can see. The sun is setting, and the master hunters of the Hun tribe are tracking their prey right near the edge of a really dense, foggy forest. Suddenly, this silver light pierces through the brush, and as they get closer, they realize it's not just any animal. It's a majestic deer. Its coat is literally shining like the Milky Way. Its antlers seem to reach right up to the heavens, and its eyes are gleaming like diamonds. Now, this wasn't just some fun campfire story to tell the kids. This was an actual encounter that would, quite literally, alter the map of the world.
Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly thrilled to take you on this journey today. We're going to be looking at how a simple hunter's tale, which on the surface is just a beautiful piece of ancient folklore, actually connects deep mythological legends to real-world history and even to modern cultural identity. We are unpacking the legend of the magic deer, sometimes called the silver deer, and discovering exactly how this glowing apparition guided an entire civilization.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Today we're covering the legend of the magic deer, decoding its sacred symbols, mapping the mythical journey, looking at how it sparked the Great Migration, and finally exploring its modern cultural legacy.
Part 1. The Legend of the Magic Deer, Chasing the Silver Light. Let's go right back to that foggy forest for a second. As the Hun hunters drew their bows, you'd expect the deer to panic, right? But it didn't. Instead, it leaped gracefully toward the snowy steppes, always staying just perfectly out of arrow's reach. It was as if this creature was sent directly from the sky god, Tengri, not to be hunted, but to be followed. And follow it they absolutely did. Just look at the progression of their pursuit here. They started out in the grassy steppes. That was the initial encounter. Then, the deer led them through these barren, treacherous paths where literally no Turkic tribe had ever set foot. Eventually, they hit a massive obstacle, the foggy, seemingly impossible to cross Miat bogs. But the deer knew the shallow paths through those deep waters, so the hunters just kept following its tracks through the mist, crossing the waters until they emerged on the other side. And their destination? The lush, incredibly fertile plains of Pannonia. And just like that, once they arrived in this total paradise, the deer vanished into the clear mist.
Part 2. Decoding the Sacred Symbols, the Spirit Guide.
Now, let's put on our historian hats and pull back the curtain a bit. Because, in mythology, an animal is rarely just an animal. These ancient stories were meticulously crafted vessels used to pass down political and spiritual ideology. So what was the deer actually representing? Well, the crucial concept you need to know here is called Kut. In ancient Turkic state tradition, Kut is essentially the divine authority and blessing bestowed by the sky god Tengri. So the deer appearing to the Huns, it was never prey. It was a physical manifestation of Kut. By leading them to this lush new land, Tengri was basically granting the Huns a divine mandate. It was a literal blessing from the heavens to claim this territory as their new, prosperous homeland.
You can really see how unique this symbol is when you compare it to other things in broader mythology. For instance, think about the wolf, which is famously associated with the Gökturks. The wolf is gritty. It represents birth, raw survival, and really tough, brutal migrations. But then, look at the deer, the spirit guide of the Huns and Hungarians. The deer represents something much more aspirational. It's about divine guidance, the search for a permanent new homeland, and ultimate prosperity. It's essentially the difference between just scraping by and merely surviving, versus being divinely chosen to absolutely thrive.
And this brings us to a massive, mind-blowing historical connection. Have you ever heard of the Csósa Zárvas? It's the central Hungarian myth where two brothers, Hunor and Magor, chase a magical deer into a new fertile land. Sound familiar? That's because it is the exact same origin myth. This shared motif of the guiding deer is actually historical proof of the deep, beautifully intertwined cultural origins between ancient Turkic and Hungarian peoples.
Part 3. Mapping the Mythical Journey, Finding Reality in the Legend.
Okay, let's look at the actual geography here, because the locations mentioned in this fairy tale, they aren't made up. They are ancient GPS coordinates hiding right in plain sight. Notice how these mythical locations map perfectly to reality. Those impassable Miat bogs with the deep, foggy waters, that directly corresponds to the area just north of the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. And that lush, fertile destination, Pannonia, known in the myth as the Gateway of Tribes, that is the modern-day Danube Basin in Hungary. The myth is quite literally tracing the exact real-world path the Huns took to establish their massive European empire.
Part 4. Sparking the Great Migration, Changing World History.
So when those hunters finally returned and told their tribe about this divine new land,
It didn't just cause a little minor relocation. No, it set off a chain reaction that completely upended the entire global order. The year 375 AD marks the historically accepted start of the Great Migration, when the Huns, guided completely by their belief in this sacred deer, pushed aggressively westward into Europe. They displaced countless other tribes. It was this massive chaotic domino effect of human movement that reshaped the entire continent, and it was all sparked by a tribe simply following a silver light in the mist.
Fast forward a few decades, and this myth evolved into an unbelievably powerful political tool. The legend completely validated the Huns' westward expansion, framing it as their absolute divine right. But more importantly, it established the unshakable legitimacy of their greatest ruler, Attila the Hun. Since he was born in this new sacred land, Attila claimed his rule was personally backed by the sky god. This divine backing is exactly what cemented his terrifying title across Europe as the Scourge of God, like he was a punishment sent by the heavens themselves. The deep roots of the vast European Hun Empire were planted firmly in that very same fertile soil first discovered by those original hunters chasing the deer.
Part 5. The Modern Cultural Legacy. Following the deer today. So why does all of this matter to us right now? How does an ancient Hunnic campfire story actually impact us in the modern world? Well, because the legacy of the magic deer is still incredibly alive today, especially if you're someone who loves to travel and experience history firsthand. In fact, here's a quick roadmap so you can follow the deer yourself. First up, you can physically explore the lands between the Danube and Tisza rivers on the Hungarian plains. That's the exact destination the deer promised. Next, you definitely need to visit the Hungarian National Museum in Budapest, where the story of the magic deer is displayed front and center. And finally, by doing all this, you get to discover the profound, shared Turkic-Hungarian mythological ancestry that still deeply bridges these cultures today.
We've seen how a single story about a glowing deer in a foggy forest wasn't just some fairy tale. It was a geographical map, a political mandate, and a powerful cultural bridge that has survived for millennia. Honestly, it makes you wonder about all the other stories we've been told, doesn't it? So I'll leave you with this one thought. What other ancient myths are secretly mapping our world today? Take a much closer look at the legends you grew up with. You never know what massive historical truths are hiding just beneath the surface. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep exploring.